And we're live?
Are we live? Yes?
Yes, we're live.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. Thank you so much for being here, Elena, Guillaume, and John. First of all, it was going to be Caridad Batalla, the General Consul, who was going to be here with you, but she had an urgency, so she cannot be here. Era Caridad Batalla, la cónsul general, la que tenía que estar aquí con nosotros, pero por una urgencia no puede estar. So I'm very honored to be with you, and I'm very honored also because the General Consul of Spain is trying to promote this amazing project of by Elena del Rivero. Es el Consulado de España el que está promoviendo este proyecto de Elena del Rivero, and I think we started the project like almost 2 years ago, before COVID, and it was very nice because now Elena asked us to carry on with this project and to join or to include the Hispanic Society. So first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just introduce our three icons that we have here, if I can say, and then I will let you to explain really home address, that is the name of the project. So Elena del Rivero is one of our main American Spanish artists and as well a friend, and she has works all over the world: Reina Sofia, National Gallery, Museum of Modern Art. Well, it's one of a kind, and of course, as I said before, is one close friend. Elena del Rivero es una gran artista hispanoamericana. I need to say that I didn't know that it was Spanish American. I know that you have an American passport, but somebody wrote me here as Spanish American. I'm quite impressed with that. No sabía que era hispanoamericana, pero bueno, eso es lo de menos. Es una gran amiga y sobre todo lleva una gran trayectoria y tiene obras en prácticamente todos los museos del mundo, como el MoMA, el Reina, la National Gallery of Art, everything. Guillaume is also a friend. I knew him like 1 year ago, but he's an art historian and curator, and right now he's the CEO of the Hispanic Society. Hispanic Society is one of these big, small museums that are in New York, and that really, for Spain and for a Spaniard, is something very important. It's like in our heart. That's why we wanted to connect with them, and we wanted to do things with them. Como mucha gente sabe, la Hispanic Society es una de esas pequeñas gemas que hay en el centro de Nueva York, y Guillaume es el CEO, es historiador del arte, curator, especialista. Yo creo que, luego me corregirás si no, en pintura española. No sé de qué siglo muy bien, pero yo creo que un día hablamos de Murillo o así, pues ya nos dirás. Y por último, John Tyson is one of the main persons in this project. It will be like the right hand of Elena in this project, and he's also a curator and a historian. I think, nobody said here anything, but I think you are at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, but you will correct me that. So John Tyson like Mike Tyson, because we made a mistake, so sorry. Yesterday, we include an H in your name. Es uno de las piezas clave en este proyecto. Digamos que es la mano derecha de la gran artista de Elena. También es un historiador, curator, y sin saberlo, pero creo recordar, trabaja en la Universidad de Massachusetts, Boston. So, finally for us, it's really a pleasure to be with you, with three of you, and to do something with the Hispanic Society. For us, it's very important, as well as doing something with Elena, because really Elena is also a very important artist and a key person in Manhattan for us. So thank you very much, the three of us. And I guess that, John, you are going to get the floor right now, right?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Santiago. Muchas gracias, Santiago. So I'm going to be kind of guiding this conversation, and both Guillaume and Elena will illuminate us with their various perspectives about Elena's work and the Hispanic Society. So let me start sharing my PowerPoint. So I just want to give a brief overview of the project that Elena and I have been working on, and we were very happy that you were able to host an iteration of it at the Spanish consulate in New York. And what we have been working on since the anniversary of, and perhaps even earlier, the anniversary of women's suffrage in the US is a project called Home Address. So it's a multi-platform project that is going to eventually see Elena's flag flown in 19 different locations around the United States. And the most recent one to add to the list that we have is the Hispanic Society. So what we're seeing now is a kind of mock-up of perhaps the location that the project is going to occupy. And I wonder if, Elena, maybe you could start to talk to us about how you came to this idea of flags related to both aesthetics and politics. You were thinking about contemporary issues. You were thinking about historic anniversaries. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more.
Well, thank you, John. I have been working on the flag since 1989. The first flags in New York were seen at the Drawing Center with Catherine de Seeger. Later on, I started to look at different possibilities to continue with this project that dawned on me about the monstrosity of the home, how the grid, because they are all like in a grid, a prison. The kitchen was the prison for women, and now the liberation made it for me to make them monstrous. Later on, of course, I have been influenced by the support Suffrage movement in France of the 70s. Some of those artists on that time used common dish towels. They were using common things around them, which is something very important for my work, to work with what it is around. Later on, when I started to envision how to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the passing of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution that gave the vote to women, I came with the idea that it had to be with dish towels. Dish towels also mimicking what the suffrage movement, they would come out in the streets, those women, especially at the beginning in England, carrying banners, similar to my dish towels sometimes because they were white. So that gave me a big kick to continue with the project. I envisioned then to celebrate it in the outside with dish towels that will become banners or flags. And then I met John and we put this project together, about 19 flags flying in 19th institution in the United States. Of course, we were hit by COVID, but that didn't deter me. In 1918, the 19th Amendment was due to be passed, and it couldn't happen just because of the Spanish flu. When I read that in the New York Times, a big article in the New York Times, I was not elated because COVID has been horrendous for everybody, but I thought, well, my project is going to be delayed for the same reason. COVID is the same virus as the Spanish flu. So I am here today with good spirits, trying to finish the project, not when I meant to finish it, but later on. But I have the support of history. It happened before to women 100 years ago. I wonder why always to women, but that's another question. So I hope I have, to bring it to the Hispanic finally is for me very important. Not only I was born in Valencia, but the Hispanic has probably the main room dedicated to Sorolla from Valencia. My grandfather used to collect small boxes of matches, you know, that he would design for him. It was inherited by my father, and the matches and the boxes were lost during the Civil War. Not only that, but the thief is close to me. The thief is in every corner in Valencia. And most important, my flags, my dish towels will fight the thief and his banner of war, but at the same time, it will welcome him to the kitchen. So I see it both ways, as a welcoming and fighting the war. So that's how I'm very excited. Thank you so much.
And that is truly very inspiring. And well, thank you for having me on this Zoom, and thank you, Elena, for having us, the Hispanic Society, part of this project. It's truly an honor to have you with us for many reasons. One, because you're a great artist. Second, because you're a Spanish-American artist and figure, and the Hispanic Society is very much about the relationship between Spain and the United States and the Americas. And third, as you say, because you come from Valencia, and we have so many connections with Valencia. And also, I'd like to remind everyone that the Hispanic Society Museum and Library started as a museum of contemporary art. Sorolla was a living artist, Lopez Mesquita was a living artist, Vila Viladric was a living artist. So I think it's very much part of our mission to make room and to give voice to living artists, and you with others represent the new generation of that. So it's very important to us that we open up to contemporary art. And actually, after we were closed for 4 years, when we reopened the museum in the spring, we started with a contemporary art exhibition featuring 4 murals by a local artist dealing with the Latinx diaspora in New York City. So I'm very happy that you're the next step of this opening up to contemporary art at the Hispanic Society, and it makes so much sense that you are with us, and we are honored to have you, and honored to be the receptacle, to be the stage of this so important fight for women's rights, which, as we will see, is very much part of the Hispanic Society story too.
And I think one interesting thing about Elena's work is that often it kind of illuminates aspects of the sites it occupies. So things that maybe hadn't been totally considered get claimed for a kind of feminist history, or maybe even a kind of her story. And the Hispanic, as Guillaume is about to tell us, it has a really rich history in relationship to women's contribution. So I will let you take it away.
And John, you just mentioned El Cid. Well, El Cid is the work by a woman artist. The Cid is the work by Anna Hyatt Huntington. She was one of the most prominent sculptors in the early 20th century in New York City and in the US. And she was the wife of R.J. Huntington, the founder of the Hispanic Society. And actually her works, and you are showing here the statue of Joan of Arc, work were very soon appropriated by the suffrage cause, and here we see the statue that she did of Joan of Arc on Riverside Drive, and that became an icon of the fight for women's rights. So, and she's not an isolated figure in the Hispanic Society. Well, here we have Emilia Pardo Bazan, for instance. She was a very active and famous Spanish feminist. We could quote Concepción Arnal, Rosalia de Castro, also, who were very much involved in this cause. And actually, their names figure on one of the facades of the Hispanic Society. Here we are, together with all the names of very important women that played an important role in the history of Spain and the history of the Hispanic world, but also in the history of fight for women's rights. So it makes so much sense that we are heading up to this, and thank you, Elena, to helping us in revealing these aspects of the Hispanic society, which is quite admirable. And lastly, I'd like to remind that the first generation of curators that Archer Huntington hired when he started the museum at the beginning of the 20th century, they were all women. And all these women were authorities in their respective fields. Elisabeth de Guetrapié for paintings and drawings. She wrote one of the most important books on Velázquez. Beatriz Irene Gilman-Prosca, she's an authority on Spanish sculpture, still is. Alice Wilson-Fortingham for decorative art, especially glassware and ceramic. Florence Lewis May for textiles. Eleanor Sherman Fount for prints, Clara Luisa Penet for rare books and manuscripts, and obviously Ruth Matilda Anderson, an American photographer who was sent by Archer Huntington to Spain to take pictures, to document the life in Spain and to encapsulate the soul of Spain that Archer Huntington wanted to preserve. And a big part of the soul of Spain are actually the women of Spain. I mean, they are everywhere when you look at the collection of the Hispanic Society. And so that's another very important connection that is clear. And you see here some aprons that, now that I look at them, makes me think of your work, Elena, of your towel dish, and reminds me also that among the many collections that we steward at the Hispanic Society, we have a collection of textiles that are quite very, very important. So again and again, many, many connections all around.
And Elena, I wonder if you might talk about the role of textiles and also handwork. So types of labor that might have been done in domestic spheres or perhaps have traditionally been coded as feminine.
Well, that is part of my work indeed. So I not only I work with what it is at hand, but I take great pride in stimulating the idea that I think through my hands. So I like work that is done handmade, even though today most things are fabricated by others. I don't think anyone or very, very few things have been fabricated for me. I use and have women, artists always, working for me. And we all collaborate in these big pieces that I did, especially at the beginning, where everything was hand embroidered on paper, which was complicated. And later on, I have been working with women in the studio, even though the later pieces are part of a performance. So the big dish towels, I paint with my own body, and I paint in the shower with them. And then I scrub the paint, very much in the sense what happens in the kitchen. So I mimic what happens with a dish towel, that you dirty the dish towel and then you wash it and then you rewash it. Finally, the dish towel becomes frail. The dish towel has to be mended, which is a very important part of my work. The idea of mending objects, the idea of recycling, which brings me to the idea, especially of mending life, how to put life together, how to percolate what we have into what we are going into, which is an idea of forever recycling. We are recycling our lives. So you see dish towels, but the dish towels also embody a lot of my thoughts about not only life, but about work and about bringing into a big pedestal all the work by women that was not considered as important, and that we see today that it was very much so. When I think of Annie Albers at the time was the main figure. And when you see today the Annie Albers at any museum in the world, you are just drawn to them, not only because they were very intelligent and because they were done in part, I was going to say with the heart, but I omit the heart. I would say with feelings, with the guts. And the world of men, until now, things are changing also for men, has been very linear. The work for women as life has been textual, which brings me back to textual text, the dish towels.
What I think is really fascinating and moving with your pieces is the presence of the stains, because it shows that it's not something abstract. It's a fight. It's a tough one, and that made it very embodied, very present, very real, and that's absolutely beautiful. And you said that to you the grid is like a prison, and that reminds me what was said about Velázquez's master studio, Francisco Pacheco. His studio was called La Cárcel Dorada, the gilded prison, and this one is La Cárcel Manchada. No, and I love that. I love this connection. And
towels are always dirty, but they are dirty because I have the kitchen next to the studio, and everything travels. Everything travels. The wine and everything that I have around. I have forced the stains later on, especially with turmeric, which brings a beautiful color, you know, and I have used even turmeric with my oil paints. Yes, thank you for the comment on Velázquez. It's quite wonderful. I didn't know that. La Cárcel Dorada, I love it. It's very inspiring.
And another Spanish tapas is Santa Teresa saying that, you know, God is walking in the kitchen.
Of course,
the pan.
That I know because Santa Teresa has been for me a major figure of influence.
Mm-hmm.
I have a series that are the Seven Moradas, Las Siete Moradas, when I was perhaps 29 years old. Yes.
But I can totally see that, you know, idea in your work because I mean Santa Teresa did dignify the kitchen as a place of worth, you know, and that's exactly what you do. You emancipate the kitchen as it was the only space allowed for women. So that's you're also very much in this tradition, which is a glorious one.
Of course, all this project has been very much enriched, and I owe so much to John because through our conversations, I have learned more about my work because he would bring in all our talks and dinners and more things onto the table that have made me think with all his influence and his knowledge about history. And I have been able to learn a lot through him, and I am very thankful to have him in this project, of course.
One thing that's coming to mind with the conversation, right, with the kind of technologies of the kitchen and things that are familiar to the kitchen and perhaps also kind of collective creation, is that I don't know how much you are familiar with this collection, but I also, in the process of preparing this talk, realized that the Hispanic has an amazing collection of cookbooks, which are also a kind of collective form of knowledge. Oh, wow. And Elena, your letter from home, Suffrage, was also framed in the context of a cookbook, that of Alice B. Toklas, when it was first shown at Enrique Faria.
That was my show at Enrique Faria, and it was called Hash Brownies. She used to cook hash brownies in France to offer her friends, including Picasso. So I read that book, you know, and I saw hash brownies. So I had this exhibition at Enrique Faria that we see a picture there, and it was called Hash Brownies after Alice B. Toklas. In fact, the day of the openings, we had hash brownies, the real ones.
If you allow me just one small thing. after this conversation, I'm very proud because when you place that, when you place the flag or, in the consulate, we could say that really you dignify our office, as Guillaume said. So I mean, like after 2 years, we were not the first one, but we were one of the institutions that promote your work. No,
but I have to say that for me that was major, to be able and for you to allow me to place a dish towel, dirty, a flag, honoring women next to the Spanish flag. That was major for me, and to the European community flag. I would like to make my flag the flag of Spain. Perhaps it unites us all.
Well, the good thing is that you dignified our office, and actually it was very risky for us because it was the first time to put that with the Spanish flag and the European flag. So I mean, like, well, one day I will tell you what my boss told me before, but one day I will tell you that.
No, but a lot of people call me and say, "How is it possible?" I say, "Well, I have the right guy there."
No, that was very good. And the last thing that I wanted to comment is like, thank you, Guillaume, because I mean, we want to do things with you. You know that. I mean, like, we are very proud that you are there, and we want to. This will be. I mean, I hope that this is going to be the first step in a long and a strong collaboration. Really, I mean, we would love to help the Hispanic Society. We would love to be helped by the Hispanic Society and to do things together. So thank you very much, really.
Absolutely, thank you, Santiago. It's not only our pleasure, but it's very much our mission. So yes.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
I would just say you both, I mean, I think it seems like something that's a fairly subtle gesture, but in fact, in the course of doing this project, it's been incredibly difficult to find institutions that are willing to put a dish towel on a flagpole, as simple as that sounds.
You know, the good thing is that we had the polls. So it's, you know, when Elena came, and also I should say that we are expecting from a collector in New York a donation of one of early Elena's work. So it's all this coincidence and serendipity. And when Elena came and explaining about the project, we had those 2 polls. Well, yeah, it's ready, you know, it's here. So let's do it. It was waiting for you, Elena. It was waiting for you.
No, but it is such a tour de force. You know what? This is theater. It's the best theater to have the theater and 2 flags that are going to be flying there in New York. It's wonderful. I wish I could find something like this in the south of the United States around Texas, because it would be good too. Texas, I like Texas.
Yeah, me too. I spent 2 years in Texas, so I've started asking people around about that.
Oh, good.
I'll let you know.
Texas is very important. I had Louisiana. Louisiana at one point was Spanish, so that was good. And I have Florida. I have Florida too.
And you know that it is in Texas that Arthur Huntington discovered about the Hispanic culture. He visited an uncle of his there, and then he saw this architecture, this art that had nothing to do with the Anglo-Saxon art or architecture he was familiar with, living in New York or in New England. So he was totally amazed, and he asked around, "What is that about?" "Oh yeah, it's Spanish, it's Hispanic." "Oh yeah, but when does that date like?" And sorry, and they said, "Well, actually, it predates the Anglo-Saxon culture in the US." And to him, that was a shock, and he couldn't imagine that the US were made of something else than only the Anglo-Saxon and perhaps the French components. And this is how and why he decided to dedicate so much time and money to make sure that the Hispanic heritage of this country would not be forgotten. So Texas is really important to us too.
So I think we're maybe getting to the end of our time. So I don't know if Elena, you would like to make any final remarks about either the project so far or its iteration at the Hispanic?
Well, it is very important that, if I may say something, thank you, John, that it's going to happen on the 8th of March, which is the International Day of Women. I asked Guillaume for that date, and he agreed, you know, and we hope to organize some event with women the women that support the institution, to celebrate March 8th with 2 dish towels around the Cid Campeano. I think it will be quite exciting.
So we'll look forward to seeing your domestic politics in action. Guillaume, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, or Santiago. If not, I want to thank you both for the stimulating conversation. I'll stop talking now.
One last thing. Well, I very much look forward to seeing this show happen, this installation happen, and we're so excited. In the meantime, if our audience wants to discover the Hispanic Society or know more about it, I invite them to come to see the current exhibition that we have, Gilded Figures. It's running until January the 9th, and it does have a connection to this project too, because it features 2 very important Spanish sculptors for the 17th century, La Roldana, Luisa Roldan, and Andrea de Mena. So, and Luisa Roldan, her name is on the wall, on the facade of the Hispanic Society too. So again, I'm so happy that Elena will be soon joining this glorious tradition. So thank you, Elena, and thank you all for making it possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we're off